name's Justin Venatorn. I'm the president and CEO of Greenheart Gold. We're a new exploration company spun out of the merger between Reunion Gold and G Mining Ventures, focused on exploration in Guyana and Suriname.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
You're hardly the new kid on the block, but the company is. How's it going? What's the reception been?
It's been great. I mean, we've had a chock-a-block full day yesterday and today, and I mean it's just one meeting after another trying to explain the story, and obviously everybody's heard of what we've done recently with Oko West. So I think we've got quite a lot of support for moving on.
Well, I think that's fantastic because it's a very, very recent win. And is the idea to do the same again? Is that as simple as that?
Pretty much. So if we just step back and look at the merger with G Mining Ventures, we recognize G Mining is a phenomenal mine building group, phenomenal bunch of engineers. And we recognize that that's not really our forte. Our forte is exploration and discovery. Oko West is obviously the most recent example of that, and but obviously through our team and especially our executive team, I mean the history in this part of the world, in the Guyana Shield, there's about 40 years of exploration, discovery, and mine building that's gone on. So, out of that merger, we've basically put together a new company. The merger itself also financed that new company in part. So G Mining took a 20% stake in return for a $15 million investment. So that's left us as a junior explorer looking at predominantly early stage projects across the Shield, looking at areas where we think we have the key ingredients that also led to the formation of the deposit at Oko West. We're basically capitalizing on that, leveraging that to look for new areas and new discoveries.
Okay, so let's be clear about what you did before. Mm-hmm. If it is a case of we think we can do this again.
Yep.
Okay. And then we'll get into the two projects separately. Sure. and the schedule, as it were. So, what did you do before? You started where? Your exploration?
Pretty much. So we started really a renewed effort in gold exploration with Reunion. I mean, Reunion's been around since 2003 and has gone through various focuses, even a period of focusing on the manganese project in Guyana. Yeah. But in really 2018, 2019, the focus was on exploration for gold discoveries. We had a portfolio of 4 or 5 projects in Guyana. And then really the fifth one of that, the last one, was Oko West, where, right in 2019, we started doing proper field work, geochemical sampling, delineating the extent of the gold signature that was there. And then really from late 2020, the first discovery holes. And then since then, it's just been a resource project, a resource drilling project.
Right.
Since then. So we've gone from the first resource hole to delivering now a PEA, which came out earlier this week, in 38 months.
Right.
So an extremely rapid development. And that project is now on track to start being constructed next year.
Right. And what was the value of that acquisition?
Well, the actual, I can't even remember.
A big number.
It was a big number.
Yeah.
But the underlying asset, I mean, there's 6 million ounces sitting in that deposit. So
right.
It's definitely a tier 1 asset in a very large developing district as well.
And that happened quite quickly. Okay. So I mean that whole district, we've had conversations with Reunion previously and G Mining and G2 in the area. So in terms of what people understand about doing business there, let's kind of remind them. Sounds like you managed to operate in country, but there have been conversations about Venezuela, etc.
Yeah, and look, there's no doubt that earlier there was definitely a hit to our share price as the news of Venezuela and making these kind of overtures towards Guyana definitely had an impact. That said, and I think it's important to realize that locally, there isn't really a lot of worry about this. I mean, Venezuela has been doing this for 100 years. And it's all about self-promotion of the current government in Venezuela. So, we haven't changed a single one of our plans or expectations as a result of this. And we've had, everybody coming to visit the site to see the project. So, as far as we're concerned, it's business as normal, and we just,
Yeah, I think it's interesting that obviously with G Mining coming aboard, the bankers that will be backing that whole process up are comfortable with the risk as well.
Yeah.
And the market should be too. I only mentioning it because there was a slight blip as it.
Yeah, there was, and I mean, we had the same.
You don't understand.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. We saw that as well, and I mean, we had. I always find it. We even had the Canadian ambassador from Guyana come over and visit the project simply so they could say they'd been to a Canadian project in the Essequibo and ruffle a few feathers.
Okay, well let's look at the actual the spin out. Okay, 15 million. How much cash have you got?
So we started out with 15 million.
Yeah.
And that was literally a month ago. So we've been at this for a month.
Yeah.
I think it's important to point out, our intention here is to again develop a portfolio of projects. So right now, and we've released on our website, we have 2 projects, one in Suriname, one in Guyana. But at the end of the day, the intention is probably to have 5 or 6 projects. Which, we're realistic. They're not all going to become a wonderful success. So that's fine. If there's nothing there, we'll simply move on and we'll go find the next one. And I think that's an important part of operating in this part of the world. People don't want to kind of relinquish control of their ground forever without actually seeing a result out of it. And I think our reputation of working in this part of the world has allowed us to do these kind of deals, but we've always been clear, we're not a real estate company. We're going to explore, we're going to make discoveries, but if it's not there, we're going to move on.
Right, can we look at the sort of profile of the 2 projects currently, and then maybe talk about what other projects would look like, or ideally. So maybe give us a summary of West.
Okay. So in Suriname, we have a project called Majura Dam. What's great about this project, it's geologically obviously sitting in a very good position. It's about 12 kilometers south of Saramacca, which is the satellite deposit to Rosabel. What's really nice is it's a 2-hour drive on a tarmac road south of Paramaribo. So it's really one of the easiest rainforest-based projects you can actually get to, which one is nice because it's just comfortable to get to, but obviously what that translates to is cheaper, more cost-effective exploration as well because you're not spending as much on the logistical support. So this project basically overlies an area that it's part of the same volcanic sedimentary package that runs up to the north of Saramacca. It's an area that's seen extensive alluvial mining in the recent past. But it's seen no real exploration activities at all. So the only thing that's been done was a few years back, the current owner had flown a magnetic and radiometric survey, so that's obviously a good starting point for any exploration work.
Was that all you had?
Yep.
In terms of data?
Yeah.
So where do these projects come from? I know they're in the NewCo now, but where have they come from?
At the end of the day, we're looking at areas that we think are geologically prospective, and that comes a lot out of the learnings that we've had from Oko West, as well as the other projects that have been both successful and not successful in the past. So out of that, we basically define areas that we think are of interest, and then we go out and see whether there's a deal to be done with the current property owner. So in both countries, they're slightly different in terms of permitting, but in both countries, a lot of the ground, especially the greenstone belts, are all staked already. So you're going to have to do deals with local entities. And that, I think, is one of our key advantages, is we have an ability and relationships locally to be able to do those deals. Whereas, a lot of the time, when we've seen this even with majors who come into the region, that they really struggle because, first of all, they're a major, so there's another 0 on the end of every number. But also, it's just, the reputation isn't there that people are comfortable with.
Okay, so that's Suriname. Guyana.
Guyana, we have a project called Abuya. This sits along the Cayuni River. It's about 20 kilometers west of the Aurora mine. So Aurora is about a 7 million ounce deposit currently operated by Zijin. So we're on the other side of this large basement complex, sitting kind of on a structural corridor that hosts these greenstone belts abutting the large, nice basement there. So again, these are structural settings we like. We like to see multiple phases of deformation in the rocks, and we're seeing that there. And there's very active alluvial mining taking place on the property with some very good production numbers. So that's obviously given us a lot of confidence that there's at least gold in the region. It's just now we've got to figure out where it's all coming from.
Right, okay. So I think when we talk to early stage exploration companies, I'm always intrigued where they got the assets, how they've got the assets, and, all sorts of strange paths, or followed there, but it's also quite easy to kind of burn through capital ridiculously quickly, right? So I like I think you're intimating at the beginning here, a kind of drill to kill mentality of like, if it doesn't hit our profile, we'll get rid of it quickly. We're not land bankers here. So you're going to have to go and look at other prospective targets based on your profile as you're outlining, but you're kind of starting from 30,000 feet, probably higher, actually.
Well, not really. I mean, we've been, because we've been on the ground there for the last years. So
you're
I mean,
aware of some of
we
these areas?
know a lot of places where we already want to be. I mean, with the history with Reunion, there was a period there we had a strategic alliance with Barrick, and then we ended that alliance, but then we had this legal battle with Barrick to resolve that. So during that period, we were still looking at projects, but we weren't able to actually do anything.
Is there a bit of legacy from
Yeah,
us?
so there's a bit of legacy in terms of, we know places we want to be. We know areas where we know there's deals to be done, there's ground to be picked up. We know there's gold production happening on the ground already.
Got it.
It's just that it's just been a bit of a waiting game to be able to get into that. Plus, in all fairness, Oko West really did take a lot of the attention while we were drawing that out. So.
For sure. So coming back to this in terms of the careful allocation of capital, even in these days, because when you've got a lot of money, it's kind of easy to go a bit crazy, right? But you probably, because of the reason, learned the hard way that what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. So you're hopefully avoiding some of those pitfalls. Can you kind of describe the kind of way forward over the next 12 months in terms of that portfolio build up and, how quickly do you get rid of things that don't match up?
So take Mandira for example, and Abuya. So both those projects, I mean, we've been live now. Well, we've been listed for 4 days. We've been live as a company for about a month. We've already completed soil programs on both those projects,
right.
And we're now moving forward to. We're just waiting for results to come back from the lab. But once we have that, we'll be following up trench channel sampling, and then we'll be basically looking to drill test early in the new year. So. That's really where the bigger money comes from, and I think that's the important part where you're making the right decisions about, yes, drill early because that's also going to save you money, but also don't go overboard and actually test, in a way that lets you get an answer and say, do we want to continue here?
What type of drilling are we talking about?
It depends on the project. So there are some places where we're looking more at vein style systems, and so for that we would actually bring in a diamond rig so we can get a lot more of the structural understanding. Versus other areas where you're looking at more of a disseminated mineralization style, in which case it's a lot cheaper and quicker to just bring in a small RC rig and run that. So the good news is both countries have those rigs available, and there's a professional drilling outfits in both places.
Well, so how many of the original kind of the A team kind of came over from Reunion into this?
So we brought over 5 of the geologists, the geology team, and then our principal geologist and myself, and then obviously the management group that we have in Canada. So including David Fennell, who's continuing on as the executive chairman, and he really is a legacy figure in this region,
right?
For sure. So we brought over the same team. It's just been a matter of having to explain to everybody that we're rebranding.
Change the shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. And how many of those are based in country or each country?
So right now we're building a bit of a team in Suriname. Suriname is obviously a newer place for us because we didn't have a team there. So we have an expat geologist working there, and then we've actually brought on a couple of local geos as well. And we're actually also looking just to. I always think it's important in this industry that you bring in kind of new talent as well. So we're also bringing in a few graduates there, and we're looking at doing the same in Guyana as well, which I think is just part of your license to operate in countries. You have to try and keep encouraging and developing that talent pool. But then, in Guyana we have a team of 3 local geologists and our exploration manager who are very experienced on the ground and definitely know how to get things done, which is key. So I could probably belabor this a bit, but this is not an easy environment to work in. If you work in a place like Nevada, the geology is there. You can see it. You don't have to do particularly much for finding the rocks. The jungle is completely different. How the majority of the challenge is getting there, is doing the work in the jungle, getting access to places, and that's what we're good at, and that's I think what our team is experienced in.
It's a good point you make. So what are the things that you're bringing over, the learnings that you're bringing over into this to make sure it is a kind of efficient process?
Well, so what was good for us in a way at Oko is we obviously were able to apply a lot of different tools to the deposit. So everything from geophysics to geochemistry. We have our own PXRF lab in Georgetown that we run. So we have an understanding of what geochemical surveys work versus what geophysical methods work, and then obviously how best to drill and target to make sure you're doing cost-effective exploration at the end of the day. So we have our toolkit, and we have definitely got a bunch of learnings, and in particular the geological framework, the geological understanding, and the structural framework, which is crucial.
And just because you're after the same sort of profile as Reunion in terms of the types of ore bodies, types of structures, etc. You stick to the knitting.
Well, we're in an orogenic greenstone belt. I mean, we're looking for orogenic gold deposits. What those might look like depend a lot on the host rocks. I think there's no secret that the mineralization, a lot of orogenic gold systems tends to be quite late. So what you're looking at, you're trying to understand what are the key ingredients you need pre-mineral to provide the environment where gold can come out and precipitate out.
Okay. So I guess next 12 months, easy to lay out. Finding projects, drilling where you can, and lots more work on the ground. Try to understand what you've got.
It's going to be exciting times, and I think we've got the right team on the ground, and we're going to get the right ground as well, in addition to what we have right now. There's more to come.
Well, I'm excited for that because it's a new story, but it's come off a recent transaction as well. So we're not looking back 10 years to your last success. We're looking back last week practically. Yes. So he'll get a sense of the winning mentality, which I think is important in a market like this, where explorers don't really have access to capital, aren't getting any love, irrespective of whatever the commodity price is doing. So you're starting in a good place. What do you think you're going to need to deliver to kind of keep that excitement and belief in what you're doing?
Simply generating results. I mean, look, we're a junior explorer. All junior explorers live and die on the fact, can they actually deliver results and put them out? So I think we're well capitalized, well funded, which gives us a big advantage in being able to do that work. And that's really a lot of the problems. Like, we don't really want to be in a situation where we're constantly scrapping for a little bit of cash to then do a little bit of work and then do a little bit of news. And then so we really want to make sure that we're managing our funds well, our capital well, and making sure we've got a good capital balance that we can actually deploy as needed as projects become successful. And by doing that, we then deliver much better returns because we can actually generate the news flow that people need to see.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to following the story. Appreciate you coming in and letting us know how you're getting on.
Great. Thanks a lot.
You.
Appreciate it.